Non-dilutive funding is almost always a good thing. The state of Michigan continues to fund some group programs, providing grants and critical money for startups and in a variety of programs, and that match angel investments. Fred Molnar, Vice President of Entrepreneurism and Innovation at the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, or MEDC, and the Executive Director of the Michigan Life Science and Innovation Center in Plymouth, will moderate a panel of the people managing the programs. His team at the MEDC works with universities, tech service providers, and early stage funding providers to support tech and innovative startups to help grow and diversify the Michigan economy. He also oversees the 21 legislatively authorized smart zones across the state.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fred Molnar. I'm with the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, also more commonly known as the MEDC. And I want to thank Skip Sims and Mike Flanagan for the opportunity for myself and the panel here to discuss how the state of Michigan is helping evaluate and fund early stage companies. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce the panel and then give them an opportunity to say a few words directly. So today we're going to have Chris Bergman. She's the managing partner of BBC. We're also going to have Phil Tepley. He's the director of the Technology Commercialization and Growth Group for the Michigan's SBDC, Small Business Development Center, specifically the tech team. We also have Martin Dober, who's the Senior Vice President and Managing Director of Invest Detroit Ventures, also known as IDV, and Prem Bodagala, who's the Director of the brand new Michigan Rise Pre-Seed 3 Fund, run through the MSU Foundation. So Chris, would you like to say a few words first?
Certainly, thanks, Fred. My name is Chris Bergman. I am one of the managing partners of BBC Entrepreneurial Training and Consulting, long name. And I have a business partner by the name of Becky Aster. So the two of us manage our organization. We're a small group. I've been with BBC for over 20 years now, working with companies and been involved in the state ecosystem in that time. So been very rewarding and very interesting at the same time.
Thank you, Chris. Phil, would you like to do a brief introduction?
Sure. I think our organization's name's a little bit longer than Chris's. Small Business Development Center, hosted out of Grand Valley State University. And what we do, our job is to help small businesses in Michigan be successful. And that's really small businesses of all types at all stages. My primary focus is with the early stage tech companies. And so today I'll be talking about two of those programs. That's the Emerging Technologies Fund and the Business Accelerator Fund.
Thank you. Martin, please.
Yeah, hi, everyone. I'm Martin Dober. I'm Senior Vice President and Managing Director of ID Ventures. ID Ventures is the venture capital team of Invest Detroit. I've been with the organization for 7 years, and our goal is to really provide early stage capital to companies throughout Michigan. We have 3 funds under management specializing in pre-seed to early seed investments. And I should say I'm going to be talking about our first capital fund, which is our most active fund and doing early seed investing.
Excellent. Thank you, Martin. Prem, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Prem Bodagala. I'm one of the directors at Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund 3. We are the youngest of the 4 programs on the panel here. We were launched about 3 weeks ago. I work alongside with Jeff Wesley, who's the executive director at Michigan Rise. And we are a subsidiary of MSU Foundation, who along with the generous support of MEDC is bringing the 3rd iteration of the pre-seed fund for seed stage and pre-seed stage startups in Michigan. It's good to be here with everyone.
Thank you. And again, so my name is Fred Molnar, and I lead the entrepreneurship and innovation team at the MEDC. Many of you know the MEDC is a very large organization. multiple focus areas, traditional business development, business attraction, international trade. You're probably familiar with the Pure Michigan campaign. The group that I lead is the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Group, and our focus is all on early stage technology throughout the complete state of Michigan. So with that, I'd like to start out with just a couple slides to go over. And the first slide here, the MEDC in our group, we really focus on three specific areas. We focus on universities because we have some wonderful research universities in the state of Michigan. And what I mean by research universities are universities that actually get federal dollars to do basic research. And through that basic research, we hope ideas generate, and which eventually hopefully become either a product or a company and is commercialized. So we spend a lot of time and energy in universities. We also have a lot of energy in support of companies as they go through the maturation process. And the third thing is early stage funding. I personally believe the early stage funding is really the lifeblood of the whole ecosystem. And after like 2008, 2009, when there was a complete meltdown of the system, a lot of the angel investors and a lot of the VC investors moved farther downstream, and a large gap opened up. And so you would have these ideas coming out of universities, and maybe they're self-funded, but then they got to a point and there was basically a gap, no funding available, or minimal funding, I should say. And so that's where the state of Michigan jumped in, creating a couple funds, which we're going to go into here, the First Capital Fund and the Pre-Seed Fund, but there's also other support mechanisms for these companies. So this one that might be a little more difficult to see, we call this the subway map. It's a fairly busy slide, and I won't go into real fundamental details on it because of time constraints. But essentially, in the ideal world, an idea would happen in a university, and we would go through a whole process. We have a proof of concept fund where we help them prove out that concept to see if it actually has commercialization potential. If it does have commercialization potential, we have a group of mentors in residence that sit at the universities, and then they help with that idea. So let's say it's an individual who has a PhD in physics. They may not have any business acumen at all. And so the odds of that idea progressing might be fairly slim from a commercialization process. So we have experienced mentors that work with them to try to develop that idea and that product. And then we also have what are called M-Track programs, because we don't have time to go into those in detail, but you should be aware that the state of Michigan has five focus areas: advanced transportation, advanced computing, advanced materials, life sciences, and ag biotech. And all of those have dollars associated with it. So those programs within the universities, if you get funded, there are non-dilutive dollars go into ideas to help them spin up a company. So when you get to the end of the green line, essentially you're out of the university system and you're into the real world. And what I mean by the real world is, you're out and you're trying to survive. And that's where the panelists here enter into the picture. You'll notice there's a brief arrow. There's 21 smart zones spread across the state. I want to make certain I say that the smart zones are spread all across the state of Michigan. So if there's any interest and you have an idea and you want to commercialize it, this is not limited to the hotbeds of, let's say, Ann Arbor, Detroit, or Grand Rapids, or Lansing. There are these smart zones spread across the UP, all in central Michigan, western Michigan, et cetera. So they are local in nature. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over. Once you exit the university system and enter into the real world, I'd like to turn it over to Chris Bergman, and Chris will explain what they do in trying to help these early stage companies succeed.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate the opportunity to talk today about the SBIR STTR Assistance Program that we have in the state of Michigan. It's a fabulous program, but before I do that, I want to give you a little background about BBC. As I mentioned in my introduction, we are BBC Entrepreneurial Training and Consulting. We are a small Michigan-based consulting firm. we go by our DBA, or our better known name, which is BBC. Very often confused with the British BBC as well. But no, we're different. We work with early stage companies, economic development organizations, and universities to advance innovative R&D to commercialization. We do this through training and one-on-one coaching and assistance. We do technology assessment, and we'll work with companies on development of their commercialization plan and commercialization strategies. We do SBIR, STTR, and other non-dilutive funding proposal preparation assistance. And we provide assessment, and post-award management as well. The company was established in 1990, about the same time that the SBIR and STTR programs were established. And the genesis of the company has been, in that time, working with these small businesses to obtain the funding necessary to move the needle on their research. There are 11 of us in the company currently, and we have a vast experience in both being on the early stage company side, coming out of university with university technology and development, launching that into a company, receiving SBIR dollars, and then moving beyond that. Others in our on our team strictly came from academia into a company and was able to launch it and actually exit that company. So we've got a vast amount of experience in the team itself. So a little bit about what SBIR and STTR is. So early stage innovative technology is rarely attractive to investors. It's just too risky, too young, too new. So we call this the come back when phase of the development process. Investors might say to a company that's presenting an idea, they may say, come back when you have more data, or come back when you have a prototype. Better yet, come back when you have a customer, and then we'll talk to you. So to bridge the gap of that come back when stage, there are two programs that we that I've mentioned, and this is the heart of the SBIR, or the assistance program in Michigan. That is the Small Business Innovation Research, SBIR, and the Small Business Technology Transfer, STTR program. These are two separate programs. It's a $3.7 billion legislatively mandated set aside that is specific for small business to stimulate innovation and to develop products to commercialization. There are 11 federal agencies that participate in this, and it is a non-dilutive funding program. The agencies that participate are agencies that already have extramural research budgets that exceed a certain threshold, and then they're required to set aside 2.4% of that budget for the SBIR program and 0.45% for the STTR program. 5 of those 11 agencies have budgets large enough that they must participate in both the SBIR and STTR programs. They've been, as I mentioned previously, the programs were authorized or initiated, launched in the late 1980s and the early 1990s, first the SBIR program and then the STTR program. They have been reauthorized throughout that time repeatedly, and the current authorization for the program runs to 2022. We have heard that there is discussion already in the Small Business Committee about language that will be included in the next reauthorization. So we do not anticipate this program going away. It has a great history, and it's been embraced by Congress and by the legislative body. So we think it'll be here a while. The Small Business Administration oversees this program, and they set the policy directives and the size requirements for the program. Then within that program, or participating in that program, I said are 11 agencies. The biggest pool of money is the Department of Defense. They have the largest bucket of gold. It's $1.8 million annually for their budget for SBIR and STTR. And then Health and Human Services, which includes, of course, NIH, has $1.15 million annually. As it goes down the ladder, you have the National Science Foundation, Department of Energy, and NASA that participate. Those 5 participate in both SBIR and STTR. The remaining 6 agencies that participate only in the SBIR program include the USDA, Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Department of Commerce, EPA, and Homeland Security. Almost forgot. So each of these agencies have different funding limits, different rules of engagement, different calls for proposal, but each of them follow the same three-phase funding process. Phase one is to prove feasibility. This can be a $100,000 to a $256,000 award for a 6 to 12 month project. Then phase two is a $750,000 to $1.5 million and higher in many cases for a 24-month project. And that's to further develop what you've learned in phase one. Then phase three is the commercialization phase. It is not funded by the federal agencies. It is expected at that point that the companies will be able to be attractive enough or have moved the needle enough that they're able to raise capital and move forward towards achieving commercialization. So using the SBIR and STTR programs as funding strategies to further their R&D efforts, further that development of technology through the come back when phase, it de-risks the technology a bit in many cases and not so much in a lot of cases, but hopefully enough to allow the company to then become more attractive and be able to raise capital as needed to continue the process. So that's about the SBIR program, but more about the Michigan SBIR STTR Assistance Program. So BBC has been very fortunate and honored to manage this program in the state of Michigan since 2002. The program's goal is to increase the number of SBIRs that are submitted and to improve the quality of those proposals that are submitted, then increase the federal funds that come back into the state. All of this and include job creation as well. Since 2002, companies that have participated in the program have been awarded more than $330 million. And that's money that has come back into the state of Michigan to promote the technology, to advance that technology. And again, it is help with job creation. The program, the SBIR Assistance Program, consists of raising awareness of this non-dilutive funding that's available and training and one-on-one assistance through the proposal development process. So companies that can participate in this program are companies that are located in Michigan. They have to be focused on a commercialization or product or service of their technology, and they have to meet the requirements of the SBIR and STTR programs. We ask them to complete an assessment form that's on our website, and that provides us with some basic information about the company, helps us gather data that will enable us to begin discussions with them as to how to strategize through this process, as well as to, it helps us find the red flags right off the bat to see if this is really a program that's suited for them. They must have a qualified principal investigator, that is the lead technician on the project when they come to us. And of course, give us enough time to be able to work with you before your proposal is supposed to be submitted. Those participants, those that choose to work with us in the program, are eligible to receive access to a library of tools that BBC has developed. These include templates and samples and tips, and one-on-one coaching with those tools is critical. We also provide then iterative reviews of their proposal elements as they're developing them. The cost is even better. So the cost for small businesses to participate in this program is $500. They receive then 15 hours of assistance. And if they choose to do other proposals and move forward, it's an additional $500. And again, they get another 15 hours. That's the cost to companies that want to engage with BBC and work through the development of their proposal. Free to everyone, though, is the training and the awareness. So talking about the SBIR and STTR program, those that are especially young companies as they come out of the university, or young technology as it comes out of the university, and even middle-sized, mid-sized companies that maybe have put their R&D on a shelf and don't have funding for it right now. Those are the kind of engagements or opportunities that we like to talk to them about the SBIR and STTR program, because it fits perfectly with where they're at and what their needs are. Not all companies are going to be funded, but the exercise of strategizing and writing that proposal focused on commercializing a product or service can really be a go or no go decision on the validity of the product. So just going through the exercise of thinking it through, writing that plan, making sure you've looked at the commercial potential. You know, what is the market space? Is there someone that's going to use this product? Who will actually be the end user? Those cost protection or projections. And then is it, you know, is this going to work? Is this something that will fit in that market space? And that exercise is extremely beneficial. Companies tell us frequently, even though they didn't get funded, they learned so much about what their next step should be or their next approach should be. Many of the SBIR programs allow for a resubmission. Your chances of being funded the first time are not that great. Usually about between 11 and 15% of the companies that submit a proposal actually receive funding on the first try, and it doubles and increases with each additional try. For the phase 2, just for your information, for phase 2s though, the funding rate is about 45 to 50%. So you do get to the big dollars once you get the initial award. So peer-reviewed technology, which is what most of the SBIR program is. Some are reviewed internally by industry experts, but mostly it's peer-reviewed technology, and the design of the path to commercialization should make these companies and these researchers much more appealing to investors going forward. So we have, as I mentioned, we've had this program since 2002, and we're grateful that we can continue the program and keep helping small businesses. Our website is bbcetc.com, pretty simple, and there's more information that you can find there about the program. And that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. A great summary. Appreciate that. And we're really proud of the relationship the MEDC and the state of Michigan has with BBC, because this really is a fundamental program to us, to everyone's success. Next, I'd like to introduce again Phil Tepley from the SBDC, and Phil is going to discuss two other programs that are administered through his group at the SBDC.
Thanks, Fred, and nice job, Chris, setting me up because Emerging Technologies Fund is a matching fund for SBIR. And so just, I do recommend BBC. I have learned tons from them about the SBIR program over the years from Chris and her colleagues. So the 500 is nothing. And again, a lot of it is at no cost. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in SBIR, to go to BBC. So the Emerging Technologies Fund, or ETF, it's a SBIR matching fund. Chris explained SBIR and where, federal R&D. I like the come back when example. What ETF does is provides matching funds to help commercialize the technology. So the vast majority of your federal funds have to be spent on research and development. The Emerging Technologies Fund, ETF funds, are not spent on research and development. They're spent on commercialization activities. And some of the most common uses of funds are things like intellectual property protection, equipment for some early stage manufacturing, and marketing. And one nice thing about SBIR is it really does open up a lot of opportunities. The peer review, builds credibility, and working through the program, there's all kinds of opportunities to open doors. And so that's one of our most common use of ETF funds, is taking advantage of that, doing trade shows, presenting at conferences. And so the costs involved in doing that. ETF, the website for that is mietf.org, as in Michigan Emerging Technologies Fund.org. It is targeted towards early stage companies. I won't bore you with all the eligibility requirements. You can read them there, but it is for early stage companies or established companies that are new to SBIR. That SBIR doesn't have to be just tech startups. Established small businesses can do SBIR. So what we provide that I think Chris mentioned at phase one, the federal grant can be in the $100,000 to $250,000 range. And what our match is $25,000. That's a grant, does not have to be paid back. So we'll match a phase one award at $25,000. Phase two, we will go as high as $125,000. But at phase two, and this is where the angels come in, for a company to get $125,000, they not only have to secure their federal award, they need to raise private sector match. So if you, as an angel investor, are interested in investing in a company, if you can invest $125,000, alongside that is the federal phase two award, $750,000, $1 million. I think Chris, you said as high as $1 million, $1.5 million, and even higher sometimes. So that's around $1 million in federal non-dilutive funding plus ETF non-dilutive funding, $125,000 to go with your $125,000 investment. And so on top of that, also the peer review, the validation, and the connections that come from SBIR. So it's a pretty good deal, I think. But to make it even more enticing, we've structured this to help angels be a little more willing to get involved. Rather than forcing the companies to raise $125,000 up front, we said if a company can raise $5,000, they can get a phase two SBIR award, raise $5,000 in private sector money. We give a grant of $40,000. So if you're as an angel able to invest $5,000 in a company, we'll give them $40,000 grant. You can use that with them to help do whatever you need to do to alleviate the risk that's keeping you from putting in the full 125 or more. And we give them a year from the SBIR execution date to raise that money. And if sure enough you say, I'm feeling really good about this and I've invested 5, I'll invest my 120, make a total of 125, then we'll give a second payment of 85,000. So 40 plus 85, 125. So this two phase program, the two payment program is to really help companies raise money from people like angel investors. So hopefully that's something that would be of interest to angel companies, because again, all kinds of non-dilutive funding to match your investment. There's one just very important thing about this program for all companies. Their deadline to apply for Emerging Technologies Fund is their federal deadline. If they are a day after, I'm sorry, we will. And it doesn't matter if they talk to Fred and tell Fred, how great their company is. It's an opportunity for me to tell Fred just that we enforce our program rules consistently. We cannot make exceptions. So please, please, please apply online before your federal deadline. What's nice is we'll give a letter of support. We ask for 10 days in advance in order to guarantee a letter of support, but we're writing letters of support up till the final day. And you can include this letter in your proposal. That way the agency knows that if they give you the award, that you'll also have additional funding to help bring that, as Chris said, phase 3, to commercialization. They want to see these projects go to commercialization, so that some of the agencies, NSF in particular, I've heard them say that letter of support is gold. So again, MIETF.org, it is a matching fund for SBIR. And again, they must apply. Please make sure your companies you're working with that they apply before their federal deadline. The other program that Fred mentioned I was going to talk about too, this one isn't specifically SBIR. It doesn't match SBIR. It's called the Business Accelerator Fund. Fred talked about smart zones throughout the state earlier, and that's what this fund is for. It's grants for smart zones. So it's not grants for companies. It's grants for smart zones. The smart zones are really business accelerators within smart zones who use these grants to hire specialists to provide services to their high-tech clients. So typically it's about a $15,000, the projects are about $15,000 in size, but they can go as high as 50,000 services per company. Services need to be growth oriented. We're not, it's not somebody to do their bookkeeping for a few months. It's things like intellectual property protection, prototyping, technology validation, engineer for manufacturer, developing marketing plans, and so forth. And a lot of times where Chris said, come back when, we often use the bridge to milestone analogy, that it helps companies achieve those final things that are necessary to secure a customer, raise money, secure a strategic partner, and so forth. Companies don't pay for these services. However, if they get more than 15,000 in services, they do pay a 10% fee to the Smart Zone. A proposal process is put together a 5-page executive summary, a scope of work, indicate who the service providers will be so they can be vetted. And it's literal peer review. It's the other Smart Zones who will review these proposals, and it'll be a 2-week turnaround. Angel investors are often involved. Sometimes, so for example, if it is a come back when, if you're saying come back when you've got third-party validation of this technology, a BAF engagement might be for the Smart Zone to hire some credible third party to do some technology validation. So it can be helpful to alleviate risks that angels want to see before they be ready to invest. And oftentimes a letter of support from an angel is really helpful to the company. It shows that, hey, the angel is saying, we're interested, but we need to see the following. Hire this, if it's technology validation, BAF services, hire this agency to do the testing. And if it goes well, then we know there's a good chance that the angels will be interested. So companies should really contact their Smart Zone. Again, it's not grants for companies, it's grant for Smart Zones. The companies must be a Smart Zone Accelerator client, which means they have to meet all the responsibilities expected of an accelerator client. That's different from Smart Zone to Smart Zone. Some may say they want to see quarterly financials. Some may say they want to attend certain workshops or participate in certain workshops. So it's not, the Smart Zones are not just a sign off, check off, now I can get this grant. No, this is for Smart Zone Accelerator clients. They must either be or become Smart Zone clients. So that's BAF. I should just do a quick plug though for the SBDC tech team, that this is, we work alongside companies with both these types of programs. We have 10 consultants, all have firsthand experience in early stage tech companies and tech commercialization, and they are also available at no cost to tech companies that are funded by the MEDC. So thank you.
That was great, Phil. I have to admit, I had my doubts that you were going to make the 10-minute time frame. That was wonderful. Great summary. And
two programs in 10 minutes.
Yes, Phil.
Well done.
That's a quick plug.
I'm impressed. And I do want to follow up on your comments. I agree wholeheartedly. 2 very important programs, and also the SBDC tech team is really a very, very important asset to the state of Michigan, and the work that they do across the state, north to south, east to west. It's very impactful, and we're really proud to work with you guys and gals. Appreciate that. Okay, so we are going to switch to Martin Dober. Now we're going to get into more of some of the more financial aspect of it, direct financial funding. And Martin, if you could take it away, please.
All right, thanks, Fred. First of all, I'd like to say, thank you to Ann Arbor Spark and the Michigan Angel Fund and the angel community for participating in this event. These are really important programs, and I know that we had a similar panel last year, but I want to make sure that that people know that these are. I think what's really nice is that the MEDC has supported these types of programs, whether it's early stage funding or the SBDC or BBC, for many, many years, going back, probably at least 10 years in some way. And I think it's what we have that's really special in Michigan is this ongoing consistent support for these kinds of programs that really start to, help very early stage companies develop and turn it into job creators for the state. So just wanted to thank the MEDC for that ongoing consistent support. I represent one of the programs that does provide support to early stage companies. And I do want to say that we have many companies that we work with that utilize either most of these programs or if not all of these programs. So I think it's really important that companies know about these programs because they should really take advantage of them. This is support, whether it's non-dilutive support or investment capital. These are all programs that companies should be aware of, and anything that the angel community and others in the audience can do to help promote these programs to companies is really important. So what I'd like to talk about today is one of the programs that we run at ID Ventures, which is the First Capital Fund. And first of all, I just wanted to give kind of a quick background of our team at ID Ventures. We are, as I mentioned earlier, we are the venture capital team of Invest Detroit. We're part of a larger organization called Invest Detroit. We originally started investing in companies back in 2010, so we've been doing this for a while now, and started as a fund to really provide gap financing to the earliest stage companies in Michigan. At the time, there were no VC funds located in the city of Detroit, and so we thought it was important to have a venture capital fund there, and that's how we really got started with a small $5 million fund called the First Step Fund, and that's grown over time to now 3 funds that we manage within our team. Even though we're part of Invest Detroit and we have the name Detroit in our name, we have a statewide investing mandate. So we do invest all across the entire state, from Detroit all the way to Houghton, Michigan. So we do meet with companies and invest in them across the entire state. We have 3 funds under management, about $25 million in capital, in assets under management in total. And over the last 10 years, we've invested in over 150 companies. So we've been extremely active, especially in the last few years. With the First Capital Fund program, that's I would say, our most active fund. And we have, we started that fund in 2017 with the generous support of the MEDC, who helped us kick off that fund. We also received funding from a couple of philanthropic sources. We received support from the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation, from the New Economy Initiative, and then Invest Detroit, we put our own capital into the fund as well. So between all of those entities, in total, we've raised about $13 million for that fund. We've supported, I think it's over 80 companies. It's sometimes hard to keep track. We've been so active recently, but 80 companies through the First Capital Fund program since its launch in 2017. So that's a lot of companies in our portfolio. One of the reasons why the number has grown so dramatically is that just a few months ago, we launched I would say it's a subset of the First Capital Fund, which is called our Technology Startup Stabilization Fund, TSSF. And that was a kind of a dedicated portion of the First Capital Fund that helped to support startup companies in Michigan to get through the COVID-19 economic crisis and to extend their runways so that they could keep going through this economic crisis. And so just in the last few months since we launched that $3 million subset of the First Capital Fund, we made 58 awards to companies. Some of those were companies that we already had in our portfolio, but over half of them were new companies to us. So we added 32 new companies to our portfolio just through that fund, and we awarded 58 companies with funding under that program to support companies getting through the COVID-19 crisis. So we really did a lot of investing in this last quarter. In fact, last year in 2019 was a record year for us. We doubled the amount of capital that we had deployed in any year previously. And this year in the last quarter, just in the last quarter, we close to doubled what we did all of last year. So we are really deploying a lot of capital and investing in a lot of companies and seeing actually really good opportunities for investing in the state. So let me talk a little bit about the First Capital Fund program. First of all, from an eligibility perspective, what we're trying to do is be the first institutional capital coming in to a company, hence the name First Capital Fund. But we are really investing alongside, in most cases, angel investors or friends and family, and being that first check into a company from an institution. We typically will sometimes we'll go and invest, on our own with a company. We don't have a match requirement, so we are able to just go it alone. And what we're, but often other times we are investing alongside, maybe some of the university funds or angel investors as well, or the founders and friends and family of the company. We are looking for companies that are not ideas. They have an MVP already created. They have technology. They're technology based and have technology offering a component to what they're offering. And we look for companies that are on what we call is a venture capital path. So we want to see that the companies are building, that they're scalable companies, that they can go on to raise venture capital or other capital or angel capital from other sources that can really provide high growth companies in the state of Michigan. We stay pretty technology agnostic. We do want technology based, but we look at everything from software companies to life science to mobility, advanced manufacturing, advanced materials, even some consumer products that are tech based. So there's we look at anything that's really scalable and can obviously produce large numbers of jobs, ideally in the state of Michigan. But we also are very focused on companies that have some kind of Michigan presence. I think that Michigan presence gets a little bit more difficult as we're all in a virtual world right now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with companies going forward. But we do want to see a good portion of the employees based in Michigan. We have a 50% of the company, 50% requirement that employees are located here as part of our funding. What we're really trying to do is to get companies on the path of their next round of funding. So when we make an award to a company and we provide funding to them, our goal is to make it milestone based so that we're putting them on a path to raise that next round of capital. So we're very focused on what are the milestones that they need to hit in order to raise that next round. And we use very flexible funding instruments to do that, whether it's an equity round, whether it's a convertible note, which is probably our most frequent investment that we do, we've been doing a lot of safes as well in companies as well. So we use pretty flexible financial instruments. We try to stay as market as with terms as possible because we're very focused on when we do invest in a company that the terms are very solid and very market driven so that they're able to raise additional rounds of capital very easily. So we spend a lot of time making sure that cap tables look okay, that other investments, if they've raised them in the past and there's something funny about it, that we make sure we clear that up so that companies are prepared to raise additional funding in the future. We're very focused on that. And in terms of our process, we work with all the smart zones across the state and try to get companies from them as well as all the accelerator programs. We do have companies that come direct to us from our website. And then we get a lot of referrals from other institutional investors that, maybe the companies are just too early for them and they send them our way. And then, we try to be as active as we can in the community just to get in front of as many companies as possible. We also try to attend as many angel groups and really keep track of what our different angel groups in Michigan are looking at and participate in as many of them as we can. And also refer a lot of our companies to pitch to the various angel groups across Michigan. So we're always trying to refer our companies to those groups. And I think I've covered most of it, but one thing I do want to point out is we have a brand new website. And so if anybody is wanting to learn more about the First Capital Fund or any of the funds that we have under ID Ventures, our Invest Detroit website actually is investdetroit.vc. That will take you to the venture capital side of Invest Detroit, and it's got a lot more information than I can provide today.
Excellent. Thank you, Martin. Great summary. Really appreciate that. And I do want to thank Martin and actually Patty Glaza, because they came to us after the COVID situation came up. They came to the MEDC and really brought the idea of the tech stabilization fund, because we all know there's been a lot of time been invested in companies, and we are all concerned about having these companies survive this period. And they came to us, and we worked it internally at the MEDC, worked with them, and the MEDC put some money into the tech stabilization fund, and I do think it has had a positive impact. So I want to thank Martin and Patty for bringing that to us. Okay, last but not least is Prem. Prem and the Michigan Rise Pre-Seed 3 Fund is relatively new. We've had, the MEDC has supported the Pre-Seed Fund for multiple years. This is the third iteration, and we're really happy to work with Prem and the Michigan State University Foundation. And Prem, maybe you can give some more details.
Thank you, Fred. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Just in terms of background on Michigan Rise, the fund is administered by the Michigan State University Foundation through its Red Cedar Ventures team. The funding support for the Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund 3 is from both the state and the MSU Foundation. The Red Cedar Ventures team comprises of myself, director there, Jeff Wesley, who's executive director, Nasa Gumala, who's associate, and Hunter Kettering analyst. Our junior members of the team joined us about a month ago. Nasa came to us from New York City, where she was working with an M&A group, and Hunter is a Venture for America fellow and comes to us from the West Coast. Similar to what Martin said, I think it is a credit to the Michigan startup ecosystem that we've been able to attract extremely fine talent from the coast because of the activity and excitement in the startup ecosystem in Michigan. And MEDC has been a fantastic and generous supporter of programs like the ones on the panel today that has helped create that ecosystem. Outside of our core team, we also have a team of subject matter experts, including 2 directors and 10 entrepreneurs in residence in the life sciences and physical sciences, who help with the technical assessment of our investment opportunities. And I think that adds a lot of leverage to our abilities and adds to our bandwidth in being able to help vet and also support the companies that we are looking forward to working with. The foundation, a little bit on the organization for those who are not familiar. The MSU Foundation sits outside Michigan State University and has its own governance and corporate structure, and has been an active economic development proponent in Michigan, and had existing programs even before Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund 3 for venture creation, venture funding, and venture placement. So our goal is to leverage the infrastructure of these programs for the benefit of the Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund portfolio companies as they commercialize. With regard to the stage and the amount at which we get involved, we will often be a little downstream from Invest Detroit Ventures, but still very active and invest in stages that are considered early for institutional investors, and therefore a good partner for angel groups. In some instances, especially with our university spinouts, we might be the first institutional capital, especially as we have that bench strength of expertise with university commercialization. And we may be the earlier investor, but in general, we'll be downstream from Invest Detroit Ventures. We have We have a cap of 250,000 per portfolio company, and we'll typically tranche our investments with a first check size of about 100,000 to 150,000 through convertible debt, SAFE, or equity investments. For the angels listening, we do require at least a one-to-one match for our investment. Having said that, and based upon our diligence, we can provide a commitment to fund before a round comes together, which can make it slightly easier for a company to raise capital from angels and other groups. With respect to requirements, they're similar to Invest Detroit Ventures. We do require that the companies have a tech-enabled or a high-tech component, and then the key founders and majority of the employees be based in Michigan. They're set up as a for-profit LLC, C Corp, or a S Corp, and the company is less than 7 years old. We encourage companies to work with their local smart zones to provide an email referral to us, but they can also get in touch with us through our website at michiganrise.com. We are well connected with most of the investment groups in the state and in the region, as well as the Michigan Smart Zones and other state-funded programs. And these partners can be very useful, as they would have prepped and appraised the company. So if a referral comes through them, that can definitely help through our process as well. I know we're running short of time, so I'll keep this brief, but if you'd like to get more information about the process and our evaluation criteria, please look at our website, michiganrise.com, which has more information. I also want to say that since going live about 3 weeks ago, we have made 3 investments and likely a 4th one tomorrow. And our first investments have been in the spaces of health IT, medical device, and cybersecurity. And based on our track record at Red Cedar Ventures, which was an existing pre-seed fund before, which invested in about 60 companies over the past 4 to 5 years, we anticipate probably the new pre-seed fund to kind of fall within those ranges of life sciences, IT, and other sectors taking up the other third. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak. And I know we ran short on time, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Prem. A great summary. MEDC, we're really looking forward to working with you and Jeff and the MSU Foundation. Exciting times for all of us. So I want to thank all the panelists here. I think you all did a great job. Thank you very much. From my perspective, if you want more information on these and other programs supported by the MEDC, you can go to michiganbusiness.org/entrepreneurship. And then at this point, we're going to open it up to questions. So thank you again, panelists.
Yes, there's no questions.
Like you're in the waiting room.
I think we're still waiting for Fred to join, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box.
I can maybe give a brief update while we're waiting for Fred. Since that recording, we have made that 4th investment and likely our 5th later this week. So we're on course for about 1 investment a week since going live about 5 weeks ago.
Great.
The most recent company is a fintech company. Sorry, it's a maintenance SaaS company out of Grand Rapids. Sorry, Fred. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, technical difficulties. Obviously, the presentation was very detailed. I want to thank you all. It went long, and so we really do not have time for any specific questions, unfortunately. There was a lot of detail, but it was really just at the surface. And so we just have like maybe 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes maximum. I just wanted to throw it back to each one of you just to double check to make certain that if anyone has any specific questions related to your component, how they would get in touch with you, and if you have any brief final comments. And Martin, if you could go first, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned in the discussion, we actually have a brand new website that details all of the support that we provide, including the First Capital Fund. So I'd encourage people to check that out. It is investdetroit.vc is the address, and that's the best way to learn more about us. Timber, nice. She just posted it in the chat box. So that will give you detail as well as you can also sign up for our newsletters and that kind of thing to stay informed on the things that we're doing.
Okay, Prem, we only have like a minute and a half left. If you could quickly,
Sure.
please.
I will mimic Martin there. Our website is at michiganrise.com. It's got all our evaluation requirements, investment criteria, team info, and a very simple application to request funding from Michigan Rise Pre-Seed Fund 3.
Thank you so much. Phil, real quick, please.
The Emerging Technologies Fund is mietf.org, as in Michigan Emerging Technologies Fund.org. The SBDC, our website is sbdcmichigan.org. To see the tech programs, it's sbdcmichigan.org/tech-business.
Thank you so much. And Chris?
Sure. BBC Entrepreneurial Training and Consulting. It's bbcetc.com. And you can sign up for our newsletters there, find out all kinds of information that links also to the federal sites and what funding is available out there, and contact with us.
Great. Thank you all. And in programs in general, others that are not listed or not discussed here, michiganbusiness.org/entrepreneurship. So again, I want to thank you all. Well done. And hopefully the information will be useful to everyone that listened and watched. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.